coming out here after 30 years, yeah, I ain't got nothing, but I'm gonna have something because I'm rich in personality, and I'm rich in love. My family love me, and that's really all that counts. Peace and blessings, man. Everybody out there on Team Banky Pound, much love, much respect. Shout out to all my members, on my membership, my family. Much love, much respect. Appreciate all y'all rocking with me with these stories, man. We're gonna keep them coming. I just got too much of it in my head. I gotta get it out. It's just too much. And y'all help me a lot, man, with y'all feedback. It helps me a whole lot. It let me know what y'all want to hear, or it gives me suggestions, or it triggers something in my mind that makes me remember something else. So what happened? This is what happened with this recently. Something triggered in my mind as I was telling this story. I just thought about, how prison was for me when I first got in before they had cameras. When I first came in, they didn't have cameras. So by them not having cameras, this created the ultra violentness that was in prison already. It was just, when I went into prison, it was violent, man. It just ain't no other way around it. There's no other real word to use but violent. It was violent because that was the culture. That was what kept everybody in order. That's what kept everybody in line, the violence. So when I first went in, dudes was getting killed, man. Dudes was getting killed every day, or not killed every day, but they was getting hurt every day. And dudes was getting killed on a regular, every month or so often, somebody might get killed. But on everyday basis, somebody was definitely getting hurt. Somebody was definitely going to the hospital. Somebody was definitely bleeding when I first got in prison. That's just fact. And all these different prisons had different blind spots and stuff where you could say there's more of a blind spot. All of it was blind spots because, like I said, there was no camera. But you had more, like when they say blind spot, they mean out of the way of the tower, out of the way of the booth where the officer can see what's going on. So, when you ain't got no cameras and the officer ain't around, then it's just free game for everybody. So the only person that was able to protect you was you. The only person that was able to protect you in prison was you. So whatever you was willing to do and whatever level you was willing to do it at, that was your protection, and you had to make other people know this. You have to make other people know what you're willing to do. They're not just going by word of mouth. I was talking to my son last night, and I was just telling him, man, shout out Hollywood Trail. I was telling him, one thing about prison, it won't gonna be no you can talk your way out of it. It won't gonna be no, I can scare you with my mouth, or I can talk you into believing this, or talk you into believing that, or talk you into believing I was a killer. You might can get away with that for a little while, but in time, you're gonna have to show and prove. That's a fact. That's a fact. In prison, somebody's gonna be bold enough to say, well, let me see if that's real, or let me see if he's just talking. And I've known dudes to get away with running their mouth a lot and acting like a killer and looking like a killer, looking like the part or whatnot. But then when it came down to showtime, they got exposed. And once they get exposed, the gig is up, man. You can be respected today and disrespected every day after that once you've been exposed. So I know some dudes that actually happened to. But when them cameras weren't in there, it just was just a whole different vibe, a whole different feeling of the atmosphere in there. You could walk out of your cell and you knew it was death on the pod. You knew it was danger on the pod. You knew, you could just feel it. So you had to be prepared at all times. And I've seen so many things go down without them cameras, man. And people got away with it. That's the thing. That's the key. Because they knew they could get away with it. You got guys in prison that back when I first came in, they might just what we call like mass up. You know, they may just throw Scully over their head and put holes in it so they can see and just run up and do cells and just savage them. Take their stuff, take their property, take their TV, take whatever, you know, and get away with it. You know, because couldn't nobody identify who they was. The only person who could probably identify them was the person who was getting their stuff took away from them. But if you do that, then you labeled a snitch. And if you labeled a snitch, especially when I first came in, the game has changed since I did all that time and was getting ready to come out. The game has changed now. Snitches got a little bit of better life than they had when I first came in, but they still ain't got no good life. But they got a little bit of better life, and it's crazy, you know, how much that has changed. Because when I came in, if you was a snitch, that was like the cardinal sin, and you know, your whole sentence was gonna be a living hell. So, like I say, with times though, things change. In the cameras, like I say, they help a lot because a lot of people can't do the things that they want to do. A lot of people can't get away with it. It's a difference in being able to do something and get away with it and then doing something that you know you're not going to get away with. If you know you're not going to get away with it, most people are not willing to take that penalty. They're not willing to take the punishment that comes with what they want to do. So that alone deters them from doing what they want to do. So that is a savior in itself, you know. Some dudes don't get beat up. Some dudes don't get robbed. Some dudes don't get sexually assaulted because of the cameras. So it definitely, you know, ushering in the camera definitely changed a whole culture of the Virginia penal system. You know, definitely with 100%. I can remember institutions that I was on before cameras and after cameras, and especially like when I first came in. And I was on Augusta. I can remember when I got to Augusta, Southampton received, and then Augusta. So when I got to Augusta, that was like a fairly new institution. I think it had only been open a couple of years before I got there. Big institution though, but way out in the mountains, super. I told y'all about incidents on Augusta before. Super racist, you know, super racist. But they had no cameras, you know. They had no cameras up there, so I can remember, man, dudes getting robbed, beat up, assaulted in every kind of way you could possibly think of. I can remember COs, female COs, you know, getting you know, touched on their buttocks, and they don't know who did it. They turn around and, you know, or they walk through and dudes will reach out and touch them on the butt. They turn around, they have to assume who did it, guess who did it, you know, and without being able to point a finger at somebody, dude might get away with it, might cause a little ruckus, chaos, whatever, depending on how far they wanted to go with it. But dudes would get away with stuff like that because there was no cameras. You know, it was no cameras. So even to that level, it had, you know, female officers always on alert because they still had to walk the tier by themselves. When I first came in, they were still walking the tier by themselves. You know, that's how much mind control they had over prisoners as well. You know, that a female could actually walk around in prison, can come in a block and walk with 80-something dudes that's locked up from anything that you could possibly think of, and some of them even in there for rape or molesting or girls or stuff like that. And they could send a female in there and let her walk all the way around, but just by her authority uniform and the position that we in prison, dudes was automatically brainwashed already that, you know, she's in control. In actuality, they was in control because they had the power, the numbers, and everything. But you already been mentally brainwashed to believe that you're not in control and to believe that you subhuman and whatever they say goes, and you can't do nothing about it. And this is what keeps people in prison for real. This is what keeps prison structure alive. That dudes have already been brainwashed that they can't do anything about their situation. This is what keeps dudes from getting up and going to the law library and trying to change their situation because they're brainwashed into believing, well, the judge gave me this time, it's got to be fair, it's got to be right, this is what I'm going to have to do. And they just lock into doing their time. All concepts that could be changed by changing your train of thought, you know. But most people don't do that, or most people don't come to that conclusion in their mind. It's already something that's been hereditary. It's been embedded in us that we see uniform, we see authority. We supposed to believe they're in charge, they're superior to us, they're smarter than us. When most of the time that's not even the case. But that's a whole nother story. But I'm just telling you that these females used to walk that part, and they used to sometimes, like I say, before the cameras, they, dudes would try them. They'll touch them on the butt. They would, turn around and they act like they don't know who did it. Or the male COs will come in there, man, and they get to talking trash and running their mouth, and they turn their head or get far enough down the tier somewhere, and man, they get peppered with batteries and bars of soap, pop, 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 hitting them all up. They'll turn around and they'll get on the radio and call, and people come running, but they don't know who did it because there is no cameras. If no one saw it did it, the inmates is not gonna tell on each other, So that was a thing that used to go on, especially when I first came in. I seen too many officers get clucked in the head with batteries, bars of soap and everything, and they knew it. So when they get in that block and they come in that block and they get to talking, they don't get to talking restless till they get ready to go out that door. Because they know if they do, they turn around, they subject to get busted in the head with some batteries or some locks or some soap or something. I done seen officers get their head busted open with big old padlocks for running their mouth and get there in the tier, and somebody done clucked them in the back of the head with a padlock, and everybody claiming I don't know what happened. You know what I'm saying? So it was crazy. That camera, man, I'm telling you, without that camera, the level of danger was just elevated that much. Dudes can go up in your cell and beat you down, beat you to death, and come on about the cell and go on about their business and wait till you get found in your cell, then don't nobody know what happened. But see, you take away that element when you got the camera, because if they do it, then the camera's gonna catch it. And even if you come out and you mask up and you do all this, they got them cameras in prison. They just follow you wherever you go. Whatever they said, they're going to be able to go back and run that tape and see everything that went on, everybody who went in and out of that cell, and trace where they went when they left that cell. So that just X'd all of that. That just X'd all of that. And it made a whole lot of dudes in prison happy, man. I ain't going to tell you no lie. It made them happy. It made them feel much more secure. I can... especially with the property, because then you had the sneaky thieves too, which they would sneak in your cell. When you ain't around or when everybody gone, they'll go sneak in the cell, steal all your stuff, take it to their cell, then act like they don't even know what happened, when all the time they the one who went in your cell and took everything you had. But it was no way for you to actually prove it. It was no way for you to actually know it. But once they got the cameras, they could run the camera back and they could point to the person who did it. You know what I'm saying? And dudes will go to the police if somebody went in their cell, even though that's considered snitching as well. But dudes would do it because they'll do it on the slick tip and act like, oh, well, somebody went in my cell. They'll talk loud, dry snitching. And the police will say, somebody went in your cell. Oh, no, don't worry about it, don't worry. And they'll run the camera. Boom, boom. They'll come back, go get the person who did it, because of the simple fact they feel like it's going to be some repercussion behind it, so they're locking them up. So in the slick way, the dude is dry snitching. That's exactly what he's doing. But it deterred people from doing that type of stuff. It put them kind of dudes out of business, because the simple fact is the camera going to catch you. You're not going to get away from the camera. And it definitely made all the female officers in there feel more secure. I can remember being on Greensville, fast forwarding all the way up to my Greensville days. Or no, not even before I got to Greensville. Let's go to the wall. When I went from Augusta, I went to the wall. When I went to the wall, no cameras. Now you talking about ultra dangerous? That was ultra dangerous. Ultra dangerous. I told y'all, if y'all can remember my stories, I think I seen a dude get killed like within the first week I was in the wall. I seen him get murdered, man. I mean, just stabbed repeatedly. And he laid there in that floor and he bled to death, which he probably was dead from one of them blows. You never know, because he got stabbed a lot. But he laid there and he died while wreck continued. Everybody walking around and past him and seeing him lay right there in the pool of blood. But the officers ain't come in to do anything. They didn't even know that this had occurred until the floor was cleared and people was going to their cell, and then they noticed, but they still wasn't even coming in there. Had they noticed prior, because of the simple fact that they were scared to come in there. They not gonna come in there. When I was in that wall, I saw more people than I saw anywhere in my entire bid, 33 years, walk around openly with knives on them. Didn't even try to hide them. Let you know they got the knife. The knife is tucked in their pants, man, just like somebody would tuck their gun in their pants, and you can actually see it. You might as well say that in the wall it was an open carry. It was an open carry law. You can open carry because the officers ain't coming there, and they didn't have any cameras. So dudes was walking around, let you know they got a knife in case you want that business, or in case you plan on disrespecting them, or in case you plan on, having any type of altercation with them. They letting you know what you're gonna have to go through. They walking around with that work right on them. That Bethlehem is in clear sight. So it just was crazy. I mean, the whole time I was in there, they never had a shakedown. I never went through a shakedown when I was in the wall. They never came in there, your cell shook down or anything. So this what made it so dangerous in there, because the weapons was everywhere. Everybody had a knife. Everybody. So it won't like you was just gonna be stabbing somebody unless you stab them, when they won't looking or something like that. There was a good chance you might be in a duel, or you might be knife fighting. If you straight up got a beef with somebody and they know you got a beef with them, that's how they coming. But someone will stab you when you're not looking, because it ain't no rules in war. That's how it is. So that's why you always had to keep your head on the swivel, especially if you had any type of altercation with somebody. You always had to be like that. It's just like that's just the rules of penitentiary, just like in the rules in the jungle. I told the dude it's like into the jungle is no lion is going to warn a gazelle that he's getting ready to eat him. He's just not going to do that. He's not going to warn him. He's going to spring attack on him. He's going to set up his best surveillance, and he's going to make his move when he feel it is his best chances of him to succeed in the kill. And that's the same thing in prison. People are going to make their move on you when they feel like it's their best opportunity to get the job done, or to take you out, or to get rid of you. That's what they're going to do. So it's up to you to counter, react. It's up to you to counter, to be ready at all times. And that's it. If you depend on the gods to save you, then you might as well just throw your life in the air, man, and just hope it just land in the right place, because it's not going to happen. And I try to tell these young dudes out here that they, if you go into prison and you thinking it's going to be something like this TV stuff you see on here, or I don't know, Oz. I ain't never seen Oz, but I always heard Oz. They talk about Oz, this, that, and third, or TV show. I never really seen it, so I can't really use that analogy. But if you thinking it's going to be anything like you might have seen on TV, or anything like you might have heard from dudes that's coming out and acting bad and tough and all that, you're going to be sadly mistaken. You're going to be sadly mistaken. And even with these cameras in there, it still goes down. It just goes down in a more intricate way, in a more plotful way, because nothing stops in prison. Nothing stops, man. If you give dudes, it's some intelligent dudes in prison, very intelligent. If you give them enough time to figure out something, if you take something away from them, you give them enough time, they're going to figure out how to get it back. Guaranteed. They're going to figure out how to get it back in some capacity or another. They're going to figure out how to get it back. They're going to figure out a way to get around it. They're going to figure out a way to maneuver. That's just what's going to happen, because you got them type of minds in prison too. They just incarcerated minds, but you got some great thinkers in prison, and maybe sometimes they can't compartmentalize and think on the level before they got into prison, or maybe they came to prison and elevated their thinking. But you definitely got some great thinkers in prison. I done seen dudes create things that's amazing that would probably be multi-million-dollar things out of here, multi-million-dollar products, multi-billion-dollar ideas, but they just in prison, and the world hasn't seen them. But I have seen some amazing things. But yeah, in that wall, people was getting killed. They was getting killed on the regular, and it was just no shame in it, because it was known that this is what's going down. This is how it's going down. Like I said, I seen that guy get killed within the first week I was in there. open, broad daylight, right in the block. He wasn't even worried about it because of the simple fact that it was no cameras, and the only person that had to tell was the other convicts, which at that time was definitely a no-no. Everybody knew you weren't going to tell nothing up in there, because if you did, then you was going to get slaughtered. You was next, you know. I can remember going down there one day, and this was not even long after the murder, maybe a couple of weeks later, and I was going down there. I think I had said something about this one time in my previous videos too, maybe over on Joe's channel. But I can remember going down there one time, and I was going to get a haircut, but it was a line. So the dudes was cutting hair and everything, and they cut hair in the block. And there was one dude in there getting his hair cut, and it was a dude, he was pacing back and forth, walking through there like he was waiting for a haircut too, and there was a couple other dudes over there waiting as well. And they all was talking and kicking it or whatnot. And this dude, man, I just could remember getting the vibe of I didn't like his energy, the way he was moving. And sure enough, man, sure is grits is grossest. He walked by and walked through a couple of times, and then when he came back through, man, he just pulled out the knife and started stabbing the dude that was sitting in the barber's chair, actually getting his hair cut.
The bacon special.
Yeah.
Pure deliciousness.
Pure deliciousness, man.
My name is Banky, man. Everybody calls me Banky. That's the name that I got from my grandmother when I was young. I'm coming out here after 30 years. Yeah, I ain't got nothing, but I'm gonna have something because I'm rich in personality, you know. And I'm rich in love. My family love me, and that's really all that counts.